Start a brand. Build an empire. It's the Private Label Podcast.
All over the world, there's people building 6- and 7-figure brands, and they're doing it in their basements and their spare bedrooms, and that is really exciting.
Knowledge, power, inspiration.
I just love the show. It's the right information in the right format. It's perfect.
What we're doing here is not just building a business, we're building a brand. And if you do it really well, you are building an empire.
The guests are top-notch. It's my favorite podcast by far. I don't miss an episode.
You see, I'm not the expert, but I can bring the experts to you each and every week on the show.
Now, here's your host with another game-changing guest, Kevin Reiser.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of the show. Kevin Reiser here. I am your host, and I want to thank you for joining me today. We've got a really, really special guest, someone that some of you will be familiar with. Others, this will be new for you, but my good friends Dan Metters and Eric Lambert are the guys behind the Wholesale formula, and they are really the go-to guys when it comes to selling wholesale on Amazon. Over just the past 3 years, they have amassed a wholesale empire that does $10 million or so a year in wholesale sales on Amazon. They've trained hundreds of people, including myself, how to sell wholesale on Amazon. In fact, about 6 months ago, it was that I decided to branch out and diversify my business selling wholesale on Amazon, and they're the guys that I went to learn how to do that. And so this year, 2017, wholesale will account for about half of my sales on Amazon. I wanted to get the guys back on the show for a little update to find out how they're doing, how things went in 2016, what some of their plans are for 2017, and to talk all about selling wholesale on Amazon. So please welcome our special guests today, Dan and Eric. Dan, Eric, welcome back to the show.
Hey, Kevin, it's a pleasure to be on again, man.
Well,
Just exciting stuff.
It's always a pleasure to have good friends on the show, and I feel like we've become friends over, it's been almost a year now that we met, and I can tell you, you've had a tremendous impact on my business and on, many people's business that are fans of the show and listeners of the show. I want to encourage our listeners today that maybe didn't hear my interview with Dan 6 or 8 months ago to go back and listen to episode 122 of the Private Label Podcast and really get a deep understanding of some of your backstory. We're going to cover some of that again today, but you guys just continue to amaze me and to crush it. One of the things I wanted to ask right out of the gate, because I don't know that I've ever really heard much of this story, but I'd love to know what you were both doing, 5, 6, 8 years ago now, before you started selling physical products online.
Well, it's actually kind of a funny story. I've known Eric for a really, really long time. Like, he used to run a card shop when I was, 14, 15, 16. And I would play there.
Baseball cards?
Well, more like Magic and Pokemon.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, cool.
And I played there, and I got to know Eric really, really good. He's a great guy. And after that, I went to college, and then got a job here at a local e-commerce place. It's kind of weird because it's in the middle of nowhere, Kentucky, but we have a company that sells off their website just Pokemon, Magic cards, stuff like that. And that's where I started working after college. And, I would talk to Eric occasionally, but he was playing poker for a while. And then I'm sure he can tell you a little bit about that. But eventually he came and he decided to work at the same company I did. And that's, about a year before we even found out about Amazon.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's for me, it was poker basically my entire adult life. I started probably when I was like maybe 20, 21. And I played up until the only reason that probably even sitting here today is funny. I'd gotten burned out after some amount of time, and I called Dan up. I knew he worked at this place that sold those gaming cards that he was talking about, and I was like, "Hey man, why don't you just put me to work? I don't care what I make or what I do. I just feel like if So I get out here and work a couple of months. I'll reappreciate poker and some of the convenience, because it's like they say, it's a hard way to make an easy living. So I'd kind of gotten set on my laurels for so long, and so it was basically just to spark some motivation out of me. But then I ended up really actually enjoying it, and I was only there probably a year, maybe a little over a year, and gotten promoted pretty well through there. But we found out, about the Amazon opportunity I guess I've been there about 7 or 8 months. And then that's when we began doing it, like dabbling with RA on the side, and after hours and on weekends. And then we did that for about 4 months and left. We both left the company at the same time, and then started this business. So realistically, that's the only job I've ever had my entire life, was the year that I worked. A little over a year that I worked with Dan at that e-commerce place.
So you don't think poker would be appropriate on your resume?
I mean, I think a resume until something like that, and now I never will. So
I love it. So were you guys good employees, or were you kind of just biding your time until you could get out and do your own thing?
I don't know. I mean, we were a major part of the company, actually, as far as what we were doing. But once we found out, it was weird, because like once we found out about the Amazon thing, it was just, the opportunity seemed so big. It seemed like we could do so much with it that it's something we just had to do, to be perfectly honest. I love that job.
And I'll tell you, it's they paid really well particularly for the cost versus the cost of living here. I mean, you start talking about making $70,000 and $80,000 a year in Kentucky. That's a lot of money, but. I just sit down and I was like, this is really great for here. But I mean, I knew what the highest paid employees there were. I knew what my ceiling was, the amount of money, the most I could ever make.
Sure.
What I didn't know was the most I could make on this Amazon. And I just had a lot of faith in myself, and of course, a lot of faith and respect in Dan. And we decided to see because I knew there was no ceiling there. Like, I mean, we could, make of it whatever we decide, whatever we wanted.
And so, talk about no ceiling. Since then, you guys went on to, as you said, start with retail arbitrage, and then a few years later expand into wholesale. And the years since, you've sold over $13 million worth of product on Amazon. You've done it in a much different way than I have, although most of our listeners will be familiar with the fact that I'm now almost 6 months into my own wholesale journey, following in your footsteps. I'm still way behind where you guys are, but I've learned so much. And most of it is from you and your group and your training. So I owe a huge debt of gratitude for you. And Empire Builders, a little bit later in the show, I'll give you an update on where I'm at and tell you how you can find out more about that as well. But first, I'd love to hear how you guys are doing. Give us an update on your business. What went well in 2016? What are you looking forward to in 2017?
I mean, as far as a general year, I mean, it was amazing. We went from in 2015, we did 3.8 million. We will probably land right at about 7 million this year in sales. So it was a good growth. So I mean, on that front, we were extremely happy, and a lot of things went right in there. It was like, we've really refined a lot of what we're able to do to help our manufacturers and vendors, and that was really good. But there were some things. I mean, we did miss our goal this year. Like our goal was we were shooting for 8 million with a stretch to 10.
Right.
And we did miss that. And it was, there were some complications in there, and Eric can tell you about those, because he's been working on this process a lot here in the past couple of months.
Yeah, no, it's a little unfortunate. I mean, for us in terms of like we didn't get where we wanted, but I mean, it was a pretty good, doubling again. Like we'd over doubled the year before to get to the 3.9.
Right. That's an ambitious goal that you set. Yeah.
Right. And we felt like we could do it. And if things had gone a little better, we would have. But the thing is, when you start getting on this level and on this scale, it doesn't take much, to have an effect, good or bad. And so we started to, our processes were really inefficient. We had some employee issues as you start, as you start growing to this level, and if you're doing it in-house, which we are, you start needing more employees and more help. And, it's just like anything. The more links that are in the chain, the more possibilities for failure. And so it's been a very good learning experience, but we hope, things will be much better going forward this year. And we're going to set our goal for this year to get to just go ahead and get to 10 million for 2017, and maybe even if things go, as well as we want, stretch that maybe up to 12 million for 2017.
One of the things I love about both of you is you're so honest. You just put it all out there. And you're one of a handful of friends that I have that live in Kentucky. And I find that some of the best people I know come from Kentucky. I don't know what it is that they feed you guys up there, but they're just genuine, nice people that really are very friendly and very open. And the other thing I love is that, like myself, you're not afraid to set ambitious goals. In my view, a goal should be something that is a stretch, and it is going to be difficult to get to. But it's so much better, even if you come up just short, to know that you had an ambitious goal than to just set something that's easy and that you'll hit.
Yeah, we're not looking for participation trophies here. We're trying to, we're trying to do, big things. And so, sometimes you don't know, we ran into complications that we didn't even realize existed. That's the thing, as you start growing this business, and these are the things we try to teach people. I mean, when we learn things, we just send that information straight on to, our students and people in the community and stuff that can understand and be on the lookout. We didn't even know to be on the lookout or aware of some of these things that may arise. But as soon as we do, and even before we figure it out, just know, hey, we got a problem. And get some feedback from the community. But of course, if we ever get a solution to it, we feel like it's nice to be able to, to positively affect people. It's really rewarding. So that's really good about this business for us.
Absolutely. So we'll talk a little bit about some of those other challenges that you guys faced in 2016 a little bit later, but you heard it here first. 10 million, the goal for 2017. Here we are in early January. I can't wait to see how you guys do. Let's go back to the basics for a second, guys, because some of the people listening to us have been following me and my wholesale journey, and they know that I, about 6 months ago, decided to expand into wholesale, really just to diversify my business and not rely 100% on private label. I think that was definitely a wise decision. But you guys made the decision 3 or 4 years ago to move from retail arbitrage, which is where you started, into wholesale. Why wholesale?
Well, it was for us. It was one of the things with retail arbitrage. It is honestly a great way to make money. Like you can make a lot of money, but it's really tied to the amount of hours you're willing to put in and work. It's very, very hard to scale. So we were looking for a more scalable model, and honestly, we did contemplate doing private label, but it seemed so complicated. And like it's one of those things. If we'd have jumped in there, I'm sure we would have gotten the hang of it really quick. But it was like scary to import product and all that goes into that. So we went what we thought was a more it's just an easier model for us because all of our suppliers are domestic, and we were that it gave us the ability to scale. That was the key thing we were looking for in our business, is the ability to grow without having to invest more time.
Right. So for those that are new to this kind of line of thinking of selling wholesale online, and mainly we're talking about selling wholesale on Amazon, let's just bring them up to speed. Basically what you guys do and what you've done the last few years, now what you teach others, including myself, to do, is to find products that sell well on Amazon, but rather than knocking them off or creating a copycat product or creating your own spin on the product, you approach those brands directly and try to establish a wholesale relationship with them where they sell directly to you, not through a middleman or a distributor, but directly to you. And you then sell those products on Amazon. And in some cases, probably in most cases, you're not the only or the exclusive seller, at least not in the beginning. But even with just a share of the buy box, you're able to make enough to generate a healthy profit. Is that right?
Yeah, you wrapped it up really well right there. That's a very good summary of it. That's the thing is we tried, what traditional methods that people talk about, wholesale trade shows and things like this, trying to find products, and we just didn't have much success versus the amount of time it took for us to find products. So Dan came up with the idea of, hey, we already know this one sells really well on Amazon by, browsing around on Amazon. Well, let's contact them, see what we can get, what we can buy it for. And if we can buy it for, that's kind of where it started. And then, then we started moving on to, because we entered this thing thinking, well, we got bags full of money, so we're going to be able to just purchase product without a problem. But that wasn't the thing. These people were looking for more than just to fill an invoice or an order. And we started working with these people, talking to them, seeing what some of their pain points are. And a lot of them don't even understand the Amazon channel. Like, there's just so much opportunity to educate them, and what that does is it shows them that you're willing to to give your time and invest to in their product and in their company, and they're going to be more likely to trust you when it comes to doing what you say, selling it on the marketplaces that you say, and just overall it just creates a great working relationship that, like you said, it doesn't start out as an exclusive, but we do get approached quite often from many of our suppliers about exclusive products and bring them for them, but it doesn't we don't enter with that in mind. We don't shoot straight away to that.
It's weird because it's the same. It's a lot of the same concepts that you and your audience are already utilizing. It's like, we want to, we approach vendors with the idea that we want to make your product better. And, if they can be, if you look at most of the listings, I mean, you've done this because our research methods are very, very similar to yours in how we find product. But if you look at most of the listings on Amazon, that's what you're looking for, right? It's like you're looking for products that are doing pretty well, but they're the listings, there's something wrong with the listing. There's room for improvement. And that's exactly what we're looking for too, except instead of, making a competitive product, we're contacting that brand. We're talking to them about some of the changes and strategic things we can do to help them grow and developing that partnership. And, you're not necessarily getting an exclusive, but like he said, it's not easy to get set up with a lot of these companies. Like, they don't want to just sell it to anybody. They want to sell it to somebody that they can entrust to make their products better. And, it's once you really learn how the kind of like the buy box works and things like that, it becomes really predictable. Say, if a product's selling 1,000 times a month, and I'm going to be, getting a third of those sales. That's 333 sales a month that I'm getting, and I'm just able to make profit on without having to, invest a lot of like PPC or anything like that into it.
Right. Now, you guys bring up several good points I want to touch on, one of which, and it's probably the question I get asked most about wholesale now that I've been doing this for 6 months or so, and that is how it compares to private label. And what I always tell people is that it's different. It's not that it's better or worse. They are two completely different animals, but there are so many ways in which there are overlapping functions and overlapping skill sets that it's actually been fairly easy for me to step in with your guidance and learning the wholesale formula that you teach and preach, learning the tricks of the trade, the way to approach brands, what to say, what to ask, the types of products and opportunities to go after. It has been a really complimentary and nice fit. But one of the questions I get is, how is it different? And one of the biggest ways it's different is that when I find an opportunity now, if I use a software tool, if I hop on Jungle Scout and I find a really hot niche, instead of then having to go out and find a manufacturer and come up with differentiation and create packaging and negotiate terms and all of these things, wait for the manufacturing to take place, figure out how I'm going to get those initial few reviews, turn on advertising, optimize listing. Instead of all of those things, really, there's only one thing to do, and that's to contact the brand and to earn their trust. And again, you guys have done such a masterful job of teaching me how to do that, but to using my value propositions to earn their trust and show them that I'm someone that can better their experience and their results on Amazon. Once you're in, you're in. And after that, most of the work is done. It's simply placing the order, having the inventory sent into Amazon, and then the sales are already there. There is no jump starting that process because you've picked a product. And now you're one of the sellers of a product that's already selling well. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. I want to touch again a little bit on why a company would want help on Amazon, though. You touched on that here a minute ago, but I really want to drive this home because it's something that took me a while to understand. Why does a company need help, or why would they be interested in help selling on Amazon?
The thing is, it's a different mindset than maybe what a lot of people are used to, because theoretically, when you're creating your product, you're doing it to sell it on the Amazon marketplace. I mean, that's why it's being made, right?
Right.
These companies aren't creating their products for Amazon. They're creating their products for the world. And, for them, their goal is to market to everybody and try to get as much market share as possible, in every marketplace, as opposed to that. So what they need is specialized people that, they want the best people they can possibly get to represent their product on Amazon. Because overall, that's going to help get them the most market share. They can concentrate on getting into more brick and mortar. They can concentrate on getting into finding somebody that does really, really well on eBay or Jet or Walmart or whatever. Like it basically, you are their expert. You're the person that's really helping them grow their brand presence on Amazon. And they don't have time. A lot of these vendors, they don't have time or want to develop that expertise to become a good marketplace seller. They want to focus on their overall brand message as opposed to on a single platform.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And once I understood that too, it was like a light bulb moment for me. And once you guys understand that, it's like having the keys to the kingdom, because you could speak the language. Most of the companies I talk to, about half of them don't even realize how badly they're doing on Amazon. And one of my favorite tricks is to take, let's take a dog shampoo company, for example, and I'll finally get in touch with the right person, and we'll start talking about their sales on Amazon. One of the things I love to do, especially if they think they're doing pretty well on the channel, is to show them a no-name brand. Usually it's a friend of mine or someone I know that has created a line of, let's say, dog shampoo that's just crushing them on Amazon, right? And say, here's this company that's been in business less than 2 years. No one knows who they are, but they sell 5 bottles of shampoo for every bottle that you sell on Amazon. How is that possible when you've spent tens of millions of dollars, marketing your brand? And that helps them to see kind of the disparity between what they should be doing on Amazon as a channel versus what they are doing. Oftentimes it's a case of, like you said, they're just not paying attention. The other half of people I find are aware of how poorly they're doing on Amazon. They just don't know how to fix it. And it could be that there are too many distributors and they're running amok and not paying attention to map pricing. Could be that the company has gray market sellers that are somehow getting a hold of product and are cutting below map, or are somehow, selling product on the channel and they shouldn't be. Other times it's that they don't have the proper protections in place, like brand registry, and so their listing is not optimized, right? They have poor images, they have misleading information, they're not making use of all of the ways that we know how to optimize listings. So really the lion's share of the work for me has been in getting in touch with the right person, and it requires some diligence and some patience and some tenacity. But once you do that, it's a winning proposition to them. That makes a lot of sense. The next question I have for you guys is, how passive is this business really? I mean, is this wholesale thing, who is it ideal for, I guess is the best way to phrase that. Are we talking stay-at-home moms here? Are we talking about grandma looking for some help with retirement? Are we talking about dad that wants to leave his corporate job? Who's the right fit?
I think anybody can be the right fit for this. It's, this is a job that can be performed from actually anywhere. Like as long as you have an internet connection, you can do this. So it's not, I don't think there's any restriction in that. And as far as like being passive, like you said, the majority of what you're doing is when you're contacting these companies is you're telling them the problem, and then you're coming in with a plan and a solution to fix it. And then after that, once it's fixed, you're going to see that huge growth on that product. And then all it is placing reorders every month. So it's like, you come in, you make your changes that get them up and, and improve their brand. And then after that, it's a truly passive part of your we call it our portfolio. We have a lot of, at this point, we have a lot of vendors we deal with. And once we're able to optimize and get them up and where we want to be, they're just part of that portfolio where we're just reordering as necessary.
Do you find a lot of brands that are really grateful once they see how well you're performing? And, we talked earlier about in the beginning, it's usually not an exclusive opportunity, but have you had brands actually come back to you and say, hey, you're doing so well, we trust you guys so much that we'd just like you to be our only seller?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not probably to be only seller is less common than to get it down to a handful of sellers, though. Like, I mean, we might have started carrying the product, there might have been 6 or 7 sellers, and they'll say, I want to get it down to just you guys and maybe one other one. And the funny thing is it's usually some of these huge players where their orders may even dwarf ours, but because we've had such a great relationship with them, they want to include us in in paring it down. So like when they get down to the 2 or 3 they want, oftentimes we're kind of like the small fish in the pond there compared to some of their other people, but they've really enjoyed working with us and know that we do what we say and are committed to their brand. So it's always been. It's rewarding to know that the work you put in is getting paid back like that, and that's exactly what happens. I mean, they appreciate the work and they can see the effort, and that's usually when it starts paying off.
Yeah, talk about who the right fit is for this type of a model. One of the big questions I got when I decided last year to expand and diversify my business is, Kevin, why would you do this? You have a thriving private label business. You have several brands. You've created this, you have this podcast and this community all about private label. Why switch focus and expand into wholesale? And one of the reasons, there's a plethora of reasons, and we'll go into some of these here in just a few minutes when I give my update. But one of the main ones was the ability to diversify and leverage the knowledge I already had and create something that was an addition to my business instead of a subtraction. And so I echo your sentiment that anyone that has a computer, an internet connection, and the ability to, form these relationships with manufacturers and brand owners could be a good fit for this business. We had about 20 of our audience go through your last training with me. Most of them are doing really well. I've enjoyed keeping in touch with many of them, and they run the gamut from grandmothers to, Fortune 500 executives that are looking to make a change in their work situation. So it really is a wide group. Another question I get, Dan, Eric, and I know you guys get this question all the time. In fact, you did a blog about it recently, is do I need my own warehouse to get into wholesale?
I mean, it's actually funny because, the problems we had this year in terms of meeting our goals was with our warehouse. Like it was, a lot of operational stuff, a lot of inefficiency there. And it's a growing part of our business. But if we would have heard about prep centers before we had the infrastructure, like, now we have forklifts, equipment, things like that allow us to, operate. If we would have had the opportunity to invest it, and set up with prep centers before that, we would have never owned a warehouse. I mean, honestly, I think it's the right play for anybody that is not already well established with a warehouse and infrastructure to start with the idea of utilizing a prep center. It does so much. It like frees you up in terms of time. You're able to concentrate really on what matters in your business, and that's forming better relationships, finding the right products. It's all about, for us, it's all about sourcing the right products. So I feel like it lends itself to being more focused in that regard. And there's just a lot of complications that go on, with a warehouse. It's like, if for example, if we didn't have product coming in for some amount of time, let's say a week or something like that, like, what do we do with our guys? Like, that's a question, you have to answer. But with utilizing a third-party solution, it's, if you don't have product coming in, nobody's prepping your product and you're not paying for it. So it's I'm truly behind the idea of I think it's better to build your business around the third party solutions and take advantage of the flexibility that they offer.
Yeah, I mean, it's also one of the reasons that we didn't hit our goal. I mean, as you start growing, you start running into more problems. I mean, it's simple. Not that any of my employees are bad, so to speak, but just more people gives more situations for more problems. I mean, in fact, we've just production has actually been down the last 6 weeks. We've had some illness run through the the company, and so it seems like every week we've had one or two employees miss multiple days throughout the week, and we have more people. It's just going to get spread around, passed around, versus, and it's just these are the kind of things that that don't arise when you're able to outsource that. And the thing too is I feel like we didn't go that route, so I can't say for sure, but I feel like if you build your model with using prep services, then the scalability does become predictable. Whereas you don't run into the kind of unforeseen problems that we did. And the reason we missed our mark was because of things that we didn't know. I mean, with a prep center, anything short of them just shutting down or somehow getting overwhelmingly backlogged, which I've never heard of in the industry. There's no hiccups. There's no delay. There's no problems with your prep and your outbound shipments, like some of the things that we ran into. So I mean, I'd like to I echo Dan's sentiment too. I feel like that's certainly the way, particularly starting out, because as he said, if we have to continually be processing products because we have continual overhead. With a prep service, you don't. You're charged per item, and when that's it.
Yeah, and I'll add my thumb to the scale as well. I've got a warehouse and fulfillment center here in the Dallas area that services our own brands, and it's been open for a year now. We just recently started taking on outside clients and doing fulfillment, and I'll just echo that same sentiment. I call it the money pit when I drive over to the warehouse. I say I'm going to the money pit because there is always something, and the cost and overhead involved is tremendous. So if you start with that mindset, I mean, picture yourself on the beach with the laptop running your business. If that were the situation you were in, you'd have to find another way. You wouldn't be tempted to go and lease a warehouse space, and that's the right mindset to go into this with. So I think the conclusion there is not only is it possible to do this whole wholesale thing without a warehouse, but it's probable, and in fact, you should do it with someone else's prep center and warehouse and not your own. Really crystal clear there, guys. Thanks very much. Let's talk about changes. 2016 was a year of big changes in so many ways. When you talk about all the celebrities we lost to, this thing we had here in the States called an election, and Brexit, and so many changes. Amazon was not immune from those changes. There were a lot of changes that affected a lot of sellers in different ways on Amazon, and I'd imagine Wholesale was not immune from that. Talk to us about some of the changes in the landscape and how that has affected the way you see this opportunity with Wholesale.
I mean, the biggest change that I think happened was the brand gating. And to be perfectly honest, I was really glad whenever we saw this that we weren't still like retail arbitrage based, because I think that's where it has a true negative impact. But with like with private label, I'm sure it's great for you guys, and for us, this is actually fantastic. I mean, I think it's one of the biggest boons to our business, or is going to be over the next few years, that Amazon could have done, because we're essentially we work as partners through our brand. Like they know that they know where we sell our product. We're an approved and authorized seller for our goods on Amazon. So these restrictions aren't restrictions at all. All it is a formality. Like we're able to go and get the letter of authorization and the have the necessary invoices to be able to get approved in no time. Now, what it does is it helps clean up any of those shady and bad actors. So it's actually, this is fantastic. It couldn't honestly be better. So that was one of the major changes. And then you saw stuff like, the account health dashboard. And I think that's another amazing change. I think that's amazing for everybody, though, because it lets you really know, it gives you more insight as to how you're performing on the platform and to any risk factors and things like that. And I think more, a lot of people get scared when they see, they look and they see their account health is at risk.
Mm-hmm.
But the point is you can take corrective action.
Right.
That's
right.
That's Amazon doing you a service and saying, here's something you can do to improve your account health. So overall, I mean, those were the two huge changes that I noticed. And I honestly couldn't be more pleased with them. I'm happy about those changes. How about you, Kevin?
I agree 100%. I'm very bullish right now in the direction that Amazon is headed. Obviously, sometimes we love to hate them, and there's a lot of they give us sometimes a lot of ammunition to fire their way. But it's important to, I think, look at the direction they're headed and not just where their policies are now or maybe where their policies have been in the past, but look at the changes they've made and everything from banning incentivized reviews, which cleaned up an entire shady part of our industry almost overnight, to, as you said, giving us more insight into our account health and no longer being so murky and mysterious when it comes to warnings and notifications, to brand gating, to temporarily halting new FBA sellers for a time being. And then another one that was huge, I think, was the elimination of their unbranded fulfillment, in which they are basically saying, listen, if you sell on other channels, but you want to use our fulfillment services, go ahead, but we're going to start charging you more. Oh, and by the way, we're also going to send every package out in an Amazon Prime box. So good luck with those Walmart and Jet.com orders. I think what all of those changes say is that Amazon is serious about partnering with good companies because they believe so firmly in providing and continuing to provide an exceptional customer experience. And this is a huge shift because they're realizing and they're taking action for the first time in a lot of these areas and saying, we're no longer going to put up with unsavory sellers doing shady things. We're interested in partnering with good brands. And as you guys just said, what that means for those of us that are interested in doing things the right way is the playing field just got a lot more level and the opportunity just got much, much bigger.